Prana Tina Sahasra Chaya Shata Pala Taramana. According to Vedic astronomical calculations, the rotation of the sun consists of 60 dandas, and it is divided into 3,600 palas. So danda doesn't mean stick here, just in case you're wondering. Suryodaya Haiti Shasti Pala Kramadaya Sayeka Danda Ashta Dandi Praharhaya. Sun rises in steps consisting of 60 palas. 60 palas equal 1 danda. 8 dandas comprise 1 prahara. Ekadui Tinachari Prahara Astahaya. Looks like Chari Prahar Ratri Gila Puna Suryodaya. The day and the night are divided into 8 praharas, 4 belonging to the day and 4 belonging to the night. After 8 praharas, the sun rises again. Aiche Krishnera Lila Mandala Chauda Manvantari Ramanda Mandala Vyapi Krami Krami Firi. Just as there is an orbit of the sun, there is an orbit of Krishna's pastimes which manifests one after the other. During the lifetime of 14 Manus, this orbit expands through all the universes and gradually it returns. Thus Krishna moves with his pastimes through all the universes one after another. Sauya Shat. Can't read this. I'm just going to read the English. Can't read those italics. Krishna remains within the universe for 125 years and he enjoys his pastimes both in Vrindavan and Dwarka. The cycle of his pastimes turns like a wheel of fire. Thus Krishna exhibits his pastimes one after the other in every universe. Krishna's pastimes, appearance, childhood, boyhood, and youth are all manifested, beginning with the killing of Putana and extending to the end of the Moshala Leela, the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. All of these pastimes are rotating in every universe. Since all Krishna's pastimes are taking place continuously at every moment, some pastime is existing in one universe or another. Consequently, these pastimes are called eternal by the Vedas and Puranas. Spiritual abode known as Goloka, which is a pasturing land for Sharabi cows, is as powerful and opulent as Krishna. By the will of Krishna, the original Goloka and Gokula are damned and manifested with him in all universes. Ataiva Golokastani Nitya Vihara Brahmanda Gani Krami Prakatya Tahara. The eternal pastimes of Krishna are continuously taking place on the original Goloka Vrindavan planet. These same pastimes are gradually manifested within the true world in each and every Brahmaloka, every Brahmanda. I'll quote that Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur elucidates this complicated explanation of Krishna's pastimes. Krishna's pastimes are always present in the true world in one of the many universes. These pastimes appear in the universes one after the other, just as the sun moves across the sky and measures the time. Krishna's appearance may be manifested in this universe at one moment, and immediately after his birth, this pastime is manifested in the next universe. After his killing of Putana is manifested in this universe, it is next manifested in another universe. Thus, all the pastimes of Krishna are eternally existing both in the original Goloka Vrindavan planet and in material universes. The 125 years is calculated in our solar system to be Krishna's lifetime equal 1 moment for Krishna. 1 moment, these pastimes are manifested in one universe, and next moment they are manifested in the next universe. There are unlimited universes, and Krishna's pastimes are manifested 1 moment after the other in all of them. This rotation is explained through the example of the sun's movement across the sky. Krishna appears and disappears in innumerable universes, just as the sun appears and disappears during the day. Although the sun appears to rise and set, it is continuously shining somewhere on the earth. Similarly, although Krishna's pastimes seem to appear in this sphere, they are continuously existing in one Brahmanda universe or another. Which all of Krishna's rulers are present continuously throughout the innumerable universes. By our limited senses, we cannot appreciate this, therefore Krishna's eternal pastimes are very difficult for us to understand. One should try to understand how they are taking place by understanding the analogy of the sun. The Lord is moving constantly in the material universes, his pastimes are eternally present in the original Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, these pastimes are called material, eternally present pastimes. Because we cannot see what is going on in other universes, it is a little difficult for us to understand how Krishna is finally manifesting his pastimes. There are 14 manas in one day of Brahma, and this time calculation is also taking place in other universes. Krishna's pastimes are manifested before 14 manas expand. Although it is difficult to understand what kind of pastimes is Krishna in this way, we must accept the object of good history. But the two types of devotees, the sadhaka is preparing for perfection, and the siddha is already perfect. That is those who are the perfect design, perfect I stated before, first the father and mother of Krishna appear, then the other associates. Getting his imperial body, the perfect devotee also goes to associate with Krishna and other associates in the same time as himself Jesus. Om Gyan Kulam Dasa, Gyan Dasa, Kaya, Tatini, Pamana, Tatini, Tatini, Sankurati, Vaslam, Adamaya, Kovilim, Yukita, Tamandanda, Adamya Karanam, Jai Shri Krishna, Caitanya, Sadhana Kananda, Shiobu, Sadhana, Shri Krishna, Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. The eternal pastimes of Krishna are continuously taking place in the original Goloka Vrindavan planet. These same pastimes are gradually manifested within the material world in each and every Brahmanda. So there's a difference here. They continuously taking place in Goloka Vrindavan, and the same pastimes are gradually manifested within the material world. That gradually manifested has been explained that one pastime is taking place, and then the next pastime takes place, and as it's finished in one place and it goes into another. So it used to be the same. The sun never sets in a British empire, but the sun did set in a British empire in the sun. Why is that saying there? Does anyone know how that comes about? So that was kind of cut half through for us. You could have said the sun is always set in the British Empire, so wherever the sun is set in, it goes to the British Empire. But we chose to kind of dig into our top of it, didn't we? But it doesn't matter how big an empire you have. I mean, every dog has the day. Just like you had one devotee from Scotland who went to Hungary and married a Hungarian girl. And his father-in-law said to him, "How does it feel to be living in the best country in the world?" It's like, well, a lot of people don't even know where Hungary is. Some people don't even know it exists. Some people think it's the name of a city. If you ask some people in America, for example, we can understand that, Americans are not too good on European geography because they already have like 50 states or something to contend with. We couldn't, answer questions on their geography. But I remember one person being asked about Hungary, and somebody laughed. Is that even a city or a country? So I'm not putting Hungary down, but I'm just thinking that whatever we're talking about this with a devotee just the other day, that we think our country of birth is worshipable. We think it's the best country. In last life, we lived in another country, most likely, and we thought that was the best. Of course, sometimes people immigrate because they don't think it's the best, but it's quite often this patriotic spirit is that we think we're the best, and that is fostered in people to create some national identity. But Srila Prabhupada explains about this false conception of place of birth as being worshipable because it's centered around I, me, and mine. But Krishna's pastimes are centered around Krishna. And it's not that Krishna is the epitome of self-centeredness, quite the opposite. Krishna loves to serve his devotees. He takes more pleasure in serving his devotees than he does in accepting service. There's many examples. The driver of a chariot is not generally considered to be like the most prestigious position, but Krishna accepts it. So when we're asked to be humble, it's because Krishna is the supreme humble. Whatever qualities we may have or may aspire for, Krishna has them in full. The portrayal of God as being demanding worship and respect, otherwise we get punished for eternality, is not the true reflection. Krishna, of course, the humility is there because that is the key to the spiritual world. That is the key to unlocking the power of the holy name, the key to hearing with an open heart and open mind. If we have some humility and we're ready to hear submissively, then we relish hearing about Krishna, Krishna's pastimes. And if we don't have that, then just try to focus the mind on hearing so that will develop. Because by hearing, we're getting association of those great souls who already have those qualities. And by that association, we'll become like that too. Just like if you're associating with thieves, then there's a good chance you'll take up that pastime. I remember when I was a young kid, I was primary school, and there was one boy who, I can't remember how I met him, but we went into a shop and he said, "Oh, do you fancy an ice cream?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Okay, just meet me outside then." And then he came out with a box of chalk ices. I said, "Oh, how much pocket money did you get?" He said, "Nothing, I just took them." And I thought, if I hang around with him, I'm going to end up like this too. So I kind of, I must admit, I did take a couple of chalk ices. But then I thought, no, this guy's just a bit too dangerous. And of course, this is at that age. And then later on, he became a bit of a jailbird. So keeping association is an important thing. Not just with people, but also giving our mind the association of hearing Krishna's pastimes, hearing the description and the explanation of how Krishna's pastimes are manifested. And Prabhupada compassionately mentions in the purport a few times that a little difficult to understand. I think Prabhupada's very kindly making an understatement for us. That is definitely difficult to understand. And he knows that, and he's trying to make it easy for us because he knows that we might doubt things. But the process of Krishna consciousness is such that as we become purified, Krishna reveals and he gives us the understanding. We can't get the understanding completely simply by reading. It has to be, this verse is so important. It's one of the 4 seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami vidiyogam tam yenamam piyantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which to come to me. So the determination may sometimes be there to serve regardless of what difficulties are there, but it has to come to the point of not just serving with determination, but serving with love. And that determination also is Krishna is accepting that we're doing this out of love. If you had no love for someone, or you didn't believe they existed, then you wouldn't have much determination to serve them. You'd give up pretty easily. So Krishna, he carries what we lack. He maintains what we have and he carries what we lack. He makes up for that. So sometimes we think we're not getting a taste. Has anybody ever experienced that? We hear about the ecstasy that Lord Chaitanya's eternal associates are rolling about the ground in ecstasy. They're swooning, tears flowing from their eyes like torrents of rain, hair standing on end. So we hear about these pastimes, think, when will that day be mine? Kabi habi bolo se dinamar, trina di kahina. Then when, oh when, will that day be mine? When in my heart will your mercy shine? Taste for the name increasing, all offences ceasing. When, oh when, will that day be mine? So this is a great song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And but the fact we're able to maintain means that Krishna is there. He's maintaining us. In the beginning of devotional service, the anartha nivritti process takes some time, but we stick with that process. That's why sadhana is there. Regulated devotional service. Without regulation, without discipline, then even in the material world we can't achieve anything, isn't it? Even if you're unemployed and you get a check handed by the dole office, there has to be at least the amount of regulation that you go once a week to sign the check. If you don't have that, then you don't even get that. Otherwise, nobody would work, nobody would even show up in the dole office, because Kali Yuga is plagued by laziness. So devotional service is there. It's not simply, we put in certain hours. If we want to be a devotee and enter into the eternal atmosphere, we have to cultivate that spirit of always being in the mood of ready to offer service. It's not a 9-to-5 job. If we go back to the spiritual world, and the first thing we say, okay, what's my hours? Then Krishna will say, go and see Peninsula. They'll sort you out with some kind of app where you can put your hours in and what jobs you're doing, and then the rest of the day is yours. And the rest of the day is back in the material world, by the way, so off you go. The Peninsula is an HR company, by the way, in case you didn't know, human resources. So it's not like there's a human resources department in the spiritual world where we go and we start a Bhaktas union and say, okay, Krishna, you're expecting too much of me. The hours are just inhumane. This is slavery. This is modern slavery. I'm going to protest to Maya. And she'll say, oh yeah, come to the material world. We're all enjoying down here. So the heart has to become purified so that our natural attraction is to always want to be engaged in devotional service somehow or another. And this movement will expand when not only are we engaging in service, but we're trying to engage others in service. And it's called a willing process. Sometimes people say, well, it's a willing process. Why you force me if I'm not willing? So the question is, why are you here? It's a willing process, and sometimes we're not so willing in the beginning, or we're willing for certain things, we're not so willing for others. But we have to push past that so it will become equally enthusiastic about anything. Prabhupada explained that the devotional service should come to the point where we're equally enthusiastic about any service. In the beginning, we're enthusiastic about some things, and we're even averse to certain things. But we shouldn't allow our mind to keep us in that prison of conditional devotional service. If we want to be on the level of experiencing ecstatic emotions, then it has to come to the point of spontaneous. Spontaneous means always saying yes. Of course, that requires putting faith in Krishna and faith of Krishna's representatives. Just like there's this example. One devotee, he was getting a reputation for being quite austere, and devotees were honoring this person like, oh, he's so austere. he's fasting like this. So this came to Prabhupada's attention that he was always doing these fasts and he was very austere. But he was looking quite emaciated, and Prabhupada says, okay, you should eat prasad. This is direct instruction for me now. You take prasad. So he was taking prasad. They told him, eat sumptuously. So some months later, Prabhupada had seen him, and he'd become very much attached to eating lots of prasad. And Prabhupada he said to him, now fast. And he was shocked. He's like, so you fast when you want to, but when the Guru says fast, you don't want to fast. He says, simply sense gratification. So if we're doing some austerity simply to gain some attention, this is called subtle sex life. So gross sex life, everybody knows what that is. But what are the indicators of subtle sex life? There's 4 of them. Name, fame, adoration, and gain. As far as I remember. Is there another one? I think that's it. Name, fame, adoration, and gain. So sometimes you'll see people like that. They can even be very austere in some ways, as long as they're getting the subtle things like adoration and that they become famous. But make a name for themselves. Then there was a story of one so-called yogi. He was reputed to be very austere. He would only drink like a little water and eat a leaf every 2 days or something like that. And he would go on tour. But then he was staying with one family. In the middle of the night, the wife heard a noise downstairs and she said to the husband, oh, I think we've got a burglar. Go and see what's happening. And he was downstairs and the yogi's raiding the fridge. So secretly, he was a bogey. Right? What does bogey mean? It means bogus. Yeah, it is bogus. But it also it means another thing. In relation to devotional service, it means bogus because it means sense gratifier. Boga means enjoyment, and bogey means one who's simple into enjoyment. Of course, Prabhupada tells us that the meaning of life is to enjoy, but we don't know how to enjoy. Because we may temporarily enjoy, just like we go out on the streets and we see so many big enjoyers out there. But that enjoyment is not going to sustain. Their enjoyment is often based on the suffering of others, isn't it? They go into some restaurant and they're eating some poor victual, some part of some animal is lying on the plate, and the animal wasn't enjoying when it was told, oh, okay, somebody wants to eat a bit of your leg, so I'm just going to have to cut that off and send it into the restaurant for you. We'll put some spices on it, and we'll get a few quid for that. Is that okay? But the animal wasn't asked permission, It was just said, oh, come here, you're getting chopped. And then somebody's profiting out of that. So in the person everyone who's involved in that chain, there's 6 people who are involved in that, isn't there? Does anyone remember them? Any one of them? Sorry. Yeah, so one of them's... Yeah. Mm-hmm. And transports it. And so, yeah, the whole in other words, it's a whole chain. Anyone involved in that chain, and if there happens to be more than 6, then they're involved as well. It's not like, oh, I'm not part of that 6. If you're part of that chain, you're involved. It's just not just like, well, I never killed it. Okay, it's supply and demand, don't buy it, and nobody will kill it. And what they don't realize is that they're doing it to themselves, because the animals are in the field this lifetime, you're going to the restaurant, you're in the field the next time, and they're going to the restaurant. So this cycle is going on. But how to break that cycle is the holy name. The holy name is going to enter into the hearts of the living entities and bring auspiciousness into them by changing their whole lifestyle. When Krishna's holy name is there, then everything which is inauspicious is dispelled, and all auspicious qualities will start to develop. So the devotees, they undergo all sorts of difficulty. Prabhupada says that the devotees of the Krishna conscious movement undertake so many risks to go and give out Krishna consciousness. And primarily, Krishna consciousness is given in the form of this trident, right? What is it? Yeah, holy name, prasada books. If these things are there, then everything is going to be auspicious. And sometimes they're there all at the same time. Some fortunate soul. Actually, Danavir Maharaj, he wrote a book called Fortunate Souls, which was the kind of A to Z of new devotee training. So we're all fortunate souls, and we want to keep that good fortune by developing this favorable attitude towards Krishna consciousness, towards devotional service, and always try to keep yourself engaged in Krishna consciousness. And ultimately, it comes to the point where the living entity is purified enough where they can take part in Krishna's pastimes. So whether that be in the material world or the spiritual world, there's no difference, because Krishna's pastimes, when Krishna comes, the Vrindavan in earth and the Vrindavan in the spiritual world is considered one and the same. So we shouldn't be thinking, oh, I hope I don't have to take birth in Vrindavan in the material world. No, what does it matter? It's in Krishna's pastimes. We should consider ourselves fortunate, or sometimes we think, oh, I hope I'm not a blade of grass in the spiritual world, that would be boring. Then if the spiritual world is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, it won't be boring. Even a speck of dust in the spiritual world be, unlimitedly more ecstatic than being a king of the material world, because the whole atmosphere is surcharged with loving devotional service. So that's been explained in the Brahma Samhita, where every step is a dance and every word is a song. We see people are attracted to these type of things. They have these mundane musicals where they try to make everything seem like it's so nice. But ultimately, it's just a dim reflection of what's going on in the spiritual world. So we've put in the hard work now, like Satyananda Maharaj says, just keep putting effort in, effort, and eventually we break through where it comes automatically. But until then, we just continue to make an effort. Okay, we'll just stop there. Anyone get any questions or comments? Israeli camp. Syria camp. Which? Charity, another charity for medical aid, 4-5 different charities and all. But like seeing devotees distribute books, none of these charities are giving what devotees are giving out. None of these charities. And I happened to speak with one person who was from this Israel or Palestine, Syria camp, and he was saying that this is very much needed. Capitalism and greed. Today they are occupying Palestine, tomorrow they will come and occupy different land. Next day you see they will occupy your land. And also we need to stop this occupying mentality. But this is how he was telling me, like India was ruled by British, right? You would know that British came and occupied your land and took away so much and all. I was thinking in my head, well, before British came to come, well, right now you're telling to protect Muslim people. Before British people came, the Muslim people came and ruled over India. Mm-hmm. There's no such solution in this. Yeah, so Prabhupada many years ago gave the peace formula from one shloka in Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokimeshram suridam sarvabhutanam gyavamam shantam richiti. So can anyone give the English to that? It doesn't have to be perfectly word for word, but the meaning. Exactly. So Bokaram Jagatapasam. So I am the benefactor of all sacrifices. I'm the supreme enjoyer, supreme controller, and the well-wishing friend of everyone. Now, this is a description of God. If we had the God who wasn't the well-wishing friend of everyone, then we'd be in quite a sorry state, wouldn't we? But the case is that the God, Krishna, is always acting for the living entity's benefits. Sometimes that's difficult to understand, but I remember Hridayananda Maharaj giving a class saying that in the Second World War, the daughters, wives, and mothers were going to the churches from all sides, going to the churches praying to God, please let our son, our husband, our father come home. But and then maybe they curse God when they don't come home. But what they're forgetting is to follow God's laws in the first place. It wouldn't be the war. So as long as there's animal slaughter going on, there's going to be some mass reaction. People may deny that as long as they like, but according to the law of karma, this is one of the reactions for it, war. And the biggest cause of war is false sense of identity. That we create a border here. Now, if you look at a map of the world 500 years ago, the borders were very different. And if you were to see a map of it 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, it would be very different as well. So people conquer over a country, they claim it is theirs, and then when someone comes to say, we want to have your country, say, no, this is ours, this belongs to us, but it belonged to someone else before you. But you had no problem taking it off them then. How far back do we trace it? But if we trace it back, we can understand that actually none of it belongs to any of us. It all belongs to God. And if we accept that there is one God, call God by whatever name you may know, but if we accept there's one God, everything belongs to God, then we can stop fighting over what is mine. So greed, people want more than they have. And if we accept that everything belongs to God, then we won't be throwing mountains of food into the sea, overproduction of crops to get destroyed, rather than sending them to needy people wherever they are in the world. This is this is criminal to do such a thing when there's people who are starving, and then there's countries which are affluent and they're just burning crops, destroying crops, throwing food into the sea because they want to keep the prices up. So this type of elitist mentality it's a false sense of proprietorship. So the first thing we try to understand in Krishna consciousness is that nothing is mine, everything belongs to God, and everything should be used in God's service. And if the world was to adopt that, then there would be peace. Until they adopt that, then we'll be thinking in terms of this border. And then if the borderline gets moved 1 meter this way, there's a war. If it gets moved 1 meter that way, there's a war. But the borders are put there to create divisions. But what we're looking for, the solution is to see what is the unifying factor. Okay, we better stop. I've went over the time. It's Guru Govinda ki, Sri Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Haribo. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.